Hi, I'm Jane Hardjono. I'm a nonfiction book coach and embodiment coach, and I'm really excited to be on the Online Prosperity Show. Today, we're going to talk about the transformation of you as a writer for yourself and for your readers, and to talk about embodiment.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and I'm really excited for the guests that we have on today. But for those that are tuning in for the very first time, I want you to know that this is the Online Prosperity Show, your number one stop for exclusive, transformative wisdom about writing, embodiment, and storytelling. And that's all we're going to be looking at today. Now, Jane, how are you doing today?
I'm really well for 9 o'clock on a Monday night. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you see, the thing about time is it's a human construct. For the person that's going to be watching this, it's probably going to be 10 years from today, but it's not going to be somewhere in the past. All right. So that's just great. Let's just keep it in that sort of context. But I'm really excited for what you do. And speaking of time, you actually help people freeze time by way of writing and helping them, put together a non-fiction book. Because when somebody writes a book, they're actually using their thoughts, their ideas, and everything else that, they have learned and freezing it into time. Because after that, it can be edited.
Mm-hmm. I love how you talk about this concept of time, because one of the things I talk about is making the impossible possible, and to freeze time is impossible, but we're making it possible through capturing exactly as you say. It's a time capsule of a person's, well, in the case of the people that I work with, their expertise, their lived experience, the way they see the world, and maybe their methodology or framework at a given moment, and then it's captured like a time capsule between the covers of a book, and but can be, still be engaged with for a long time to come.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, we're also going to capture this moment in and of itself in the form of a video and in the form of a podcast, and people can listen to this, especially those that are listening in 2058. We did have computers and microphones. I don't know what you guys are using this time in particular. Now, for those that are tuning in, Jane is a non-fiction book author, embodiment practitioner, and author. And I want you to trust me on this one. This journey is going to be unlike anything you've ever heard before, because she helps coaches, facilitators, and creative entrepreneurs pour their lived experience into transformative books. Now, I for sure know what that means, what that feels like, just given the fact that I've just undergone the writing of my book, which we're going to be talking about maybe later or maybe never. But without the essence of feeling like you're pulling your teeth or having to hard sell any of your willpower. And I wish I had known about this, because, for those that can see, it looks like I've actually pulled some teeth from my mouth, but it's just the pressure. It's just the pressure of putting something together. So she actually blends writing craft, somatic movement, and also magnetic authenticity. And in this day and age where AI and everything else comes along, we just need more authentic beings that have come to help us. And by the end of this episode, you also grasp why the right mind and right body isn't just a book title. It's actually a living practice that Jane teaches and actually lives. So get ready to tumble down this long path with her. We're going to be exploring her musical roots, her marketing experience across continents, and all the clarity calls that she took in order to be, do, and have what she now has in front of her. And all the way helping other people stand taller, literally and metaphorically. Now, just take a breath, lean in, and I want you to find all of those concepts that you thought were hidden that we are going to be uncovering. And maybe by the end of this, you might also discover you actually have a book inside of you. Now, Jane, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. First of all, you are a trained classical musician. What instrument do you play?
I play the piano.
Wow.
Ooh.
Amazing. You see, every time I come across somebody who's classically trained to play musical instruments, I just start thinking, what can I play? Well, I can play the iPod, and that's where all the instruments are in there. So tell us a little bit about your journey and obviously how you got started in this realm.
Okay, so my journey into classical piano was, gosh, it started when I was about 6 or 7, and a really cheesy song came onto the radio, a Barry Manilow song, and he writes the songs that make the whole world cry. A really terrible, oh no, I shouldn't say that, but it is quite cheesy. But I remember thinking, wow, I want to write the songs that make the whole world cry as a 6-year-old. And I said to my dad, I think I want to play the piano because Barry Manilow plays the piano. I can't believe I'm saying this because he's not really a hero of mine, but that's the truth. Anyway, so Dad went out and bought a Casio keyboard about this big, 66 keys, and I started playing by ear, and Mum and Dad could see, oh yeah, she really likes this, and I would just play any song that came to me, and then I started piano lessons and continued. And when I was about 8, I said, I actually want to be a concert pianist. That's what I said. And then I just played every day for 10 years until I got into the conservatorium at Melbourne University. And I started playing there when I was about 19. But then I dropped out after 2 years. So because I realised I wasn't actually very good. I was a hard worker, but I lacked something. And interestingly, the thing that I had performance anxiety, but the thing that I lacked the most was the self-image of being a concert pianist. I didn't believe that I could be one. I didn't believe I was one, and if you don't have that self-image, then it's very easy to sabotage that. And it was a difficult decision to walk away from that age 21. I did 3 years, I think, of the 5-year bachelor, and then I just finished and did another degree while I was there. But that was difficult. But having said that, I still play the piano, and I've continued to take piano lessons, and I play all different types. I don't play classical music all the time. I play different music, but it's never stopped being part of my life. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us there. Now, the one thing that brought you to wanting to start playing is you wanted the world to cry. Now, as a child, crying is just when you want something, and if you cry, the world gives it to you. Was there any relevance, or was it the deeper meaning of really wanting that emotional communication?
I was, even as a small child, music would move me to tears. And I thought, wow, that's quite powerful. I actually remember the first film that I cried in. I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember the theme in it was there was a great injustice taking place, and interestingly, it was set in the deep South in America, and there was a slave, and and the slave owner, and it was really awful. And I was a young child watching this injustice, and I felt very moved, and I cried, and I thought, wow, a movie is making me cry. Like, this is, and then the film went off, and then I went about my day as a child, and I thought, this is quite powerful to be able to transport people out of their world into, to change their state so much. And then when music can do that without words, it does something resonant. It does something with your, I don't know, like the actual frequencies do something with you, and the combination of the chords and the chord progression, the way it's put together, actually changes something in you. And I didn't know that as a child, but I found that very curious, and I thought, wow, that's again, to be able to express myself, clearly without having to figure out the words or the message as a child was really, really important to me. And I was able to achieve that even as a small child. I mean, simple pieces, but I would pour myself into expressing myself through music. Absolutely, yeah.
Phenomenon, because music obviously is a universal language. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people in Bujumbura and people in London could listen to the same track and have the same feeling, and that's a human experience. Yeah. And to have that at such a young age, I would think that was such a gift. And obviously we're going to be exploring how you later on utilize that. Now, you must have had really supportive parents, because you told them what you wanted to do and they followed through. Last Halloween, my 6-year-old told me she wanted to be a witch, and I did not give her the same support your parents must have given you. So, yeah.
That's hilarious, because my daughter also wanted to be a witch, and I bought her a spell book. I mean, it's a nice one. I checked it. I made sure it was like a good witch spell.
So she's not going to be casting spells in the hallway there.
Oh, no. I've just, uses things like cinnamon sticks and, just innocent things, rosemary, twigs of rosemary. But no, my parents were very supportive. And I think that's what's really interesting. I don't know, when I think about, they could see, like I'm one of 3 daughters, and we're all really different. And the other 2, I'm the middle. So the older and the younger didn't really have an interest in music, but my parents saw that I did, and they saw that I was willing to put myself on the seat, on the piano stool, and play. And they could see that I took my passion quite seriously. So they kind of couldn't, they couldn't not. And I did have a shared interest in classical music with my father, and that's we really bonded over that, and we would listen to classical music together, whereas the other 2 sisters would be listening to, garage bands and, hip hop and all that sort of thing. But I would listen to classical music with my dad, and that was a really, special time for me to have him all to myself.
Absolutely. Now, when you got up to age 21, you sort of drifted away from that. Had that been caused by you being away from the source and being away from that, and now being exposed to other things in the world, that you decided you didn't want to do classical music anymore?
That's a great question and very insightful. But I would say it was more to do with... So my interest in classical music, like I said, was this way of connecting with my father. And I genuinely loved classical music. And I went to the conservatorium and I played, and my professors were older, pretty old, like 70, old men, compared to a 19-year-old, much older than I was. And I found over the years that I wasn't playing for me or for my dream anymore. I was playing for them. And I was playing to please my professors, and I was playing to please my peers, and I lost myself. I kind of became really detached, really, disembodied, or not. and to the point that I actually had extreme pain in my body, and I didn't really know, I wasn't holding myself correctly, and had a lot of back problems. And I remember telling my professor at one time, I've got a really bad back, and he said, he could have said two things. He could have said, go and see a therapist or something, but he told me to go swimming. He said, go and swim. So when you're not playing the piano, swim. And that was, I just did what I was told, and I swam and I played the piano. And it was, I think the straw that broke the camel's back was really, I think I had sat an exam, and I was in a lot of pain, and I really realised I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. I'm not getting any enjoyment out of it. It's really hard, and I need to find out what I'm supposed to be doing, and this isn't it. And I really needed to be choosing something that was purely for me. It was a very, very difficult decision to give it up.
Absolutely. And was there any conversations, or was there any expectation on the part of the family for you to actually pull that through or see that through, given that they'd given you all this support throughout all this time?
No, actually, I think they saw that it's equally hard to walk away from something as it is to carry through. So it's like being on a knife edge. I probably had another 18 months to finish the course, and it's like, a lot of people would have just seen it through, but I felt like that's eight. I mean, I was 21, but it's like, it's 18 whole months, and it was, you can't do something where you're supposed to be fully invested, expressing yourself and being creative if you're not really there. If you're detached and not connected to the material or the process, it's a lie, really. And I thought, I can't do that. I need to follow my truth. I didn't know what it was. I mean, it took me a long time until I figured out what it was. But so I think my parents respected the fact that they knew how hard I worked to get there, and they knew that it was a really serious decision for me to take, to not complete it. It was like, oh, okay, there's something really going on. But the performance anxiety and the trauma that you can experience when you're performing at that level is a thing. And I think in the 90s, this was the mid-90s, they certainly didn't have performance coaches or the somatic work that is available now back then. And they did, but we didn't know about it. So I think if I'd have had access to some somatic education or other ways of working through my anxiety through being on the stage and that sort of thing, that was specific to performance, I think it would have been a different story. But there's no point kind of speculating. That's the decision that I made. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you're playing in a classical band, you're part of a band, and if you're letting down everybody else who's also worked extra hard, because of the part that you're supposed to bring about, I can see what that whole anxiety would have been about. But if it was just a solo performance, then obviously, it's one of those things. So you left all of this, and you wanted the world to cry. But I'm thinking it's probably going to happen a little later. You went on and did, your stint in advertising. Tell us a little bit about what that entailed and, what that world looked like for you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I kind of fell into it. I fell into the world of advertising and communications marketing. So what did I do? It was easy for me to get jobs in administration and that sort of thing, so I mean, that was what I did to put myself through university. And I lived for a little while in Sydney, and then I came back to Melbourne. And then in Melbourne, I started working I started temping and, and they would just, 1 week I'd be licking envelopes, literally. Like that would be my assignment. Another one I'd be, putting together slide decks for CEOs or whatever. And then one time I was the CEO of, not the CEO, I was the assistant to the CEO of an advertising agency. And that just turned into a long-term stint, like for a few years. And I really liked it. And actually, that's where I sort of got a glimpse onto the other side, where I could see what creative teams were doing. So art directors and copywriters working together and making ads and that sort of thing. So I got really curious about that, and I wanted to become a copywriter. But I actually worked my way up and became an account director for advertising. So over the years, through my 20s, I was always on the other side, looking and wanting to be a creative. But it seemed to be really difficult, maybe because, I don't know. It's that self-image. This idea of, back at the conservatorium, I had this idea, I can't do it. I can get so far, but not all the way. And the same thing with advertising. When I look back at that story that I told myself, I'd really like to be a copywriter and I'd like to work with an art director, but it seems to be that my path is over here on the suit side, the account management side, and not on the creative side. So, I did the courses, but I didn't ever take the leap, because you need to have courage to go from one side to the other. Yeah.
Absolutely. And pretty much amongst, people that are in advertising, it's a fast-paced world where everybody seems to be knowing where they're going, and what you do has real world results. You know what I mean? It's like literally playing a key on a piano. It's heard at the back of the room and you can't take that back.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah,
so you went on, obviously, what was the biggest highlight in your advertising days?
Well, the interesting thing was I took on the portfolio of the Myers department store. So and so I went for the interview there, and I remember the hiring manager saying, "This is our hardest account. You'll probably last 18 months if you're lucky, and if you do last 18 months, then you'll probably burn out." And I remember sitting in the interview going, "All right, bring it on. I'll do this." I was 27, 28, and I thought, yes, I can do this. And I wanted to see if I could push myself. I wanted to kind of correct or fix all of the things that I felt like I'd failed in the past, perhaps. So I took the job. And interestingly, I got to the 18-month mark. Believe it or not, I got to the 18-month mark, and my then manager said to me, "Jane, you're going to burn out. Like, you're working so hard. I think you should go away on a holiday. Just go away for 2 weeks. Just go on holiday, rest, and then come back, and we'll just, maybe you'll feel better. Maybe you'll feel better after 2 weeks." So I went, "Oh, okay, I'll take a holiday." So I took a holiday to Darwin, actually through the Red Centre and up to the top end. But while I was holidaying there, I met someone else who was holidaying there, who ended up being my husband. So it was kind of good that I was sent away to rest and recover. But I ended up meeting someone, and then I came back from that holiday, and I said to my manager, "I'm back, I'm rested, and I'm giving my notice. I'll be leaving for the Netherlands," because he was from the Netherlands, "in 3 months." And then she cried, because that was not her intention at all, for me to leave the company. She just wanted me to have a holiday and rest and then come back and continue working. But I actually went away and met my future husband, and then I moved to the other side of the world. So the advertising career ended abruptly, not really through any conscious decision of mine. I just left the country and went to see if this seed of a relationship was going to turn into anything. But I said to myself, he could be an axe murderer. Like, I know nothing about this person. So I wanted to be sure that I was independent once I got there. I didn't want to be one of those people who sort of ended up somewhere or getting married, for love, and then just being unhappy wherever they were. I just really wanted to make sure that wherever I was going, it was going to be something that I could make my own. And interestingly, for the 3 years up until that point that I met this person from the Netherlands, I had been planning an overseas experience in the Netherlands, which is really odd. And when I met him, he couldn't understand why I would want to move why I would want to specifically, be traveling to the Netherlands at some point. He wanted to live in Australia. So it was a huge comedy of errors, this encounter with my husband, with my now husband. But that's what it was. That's what got me out of advertising, was this accidental migration.
Absolutely. See, now, if anybody's keeping score, World 0, Jane 1, because she was on a mission to make the world cry. And now the advertising executive has cried, so the world is losing at the moment.
Oh, this is true. You'd think we had premeditated this, but we haven't. It's just come out this way. It's amazing. I don't know. I just know that was going to happen. Continue, Prosper. Continue.
That's the power of telling your story on the online prosperity show. All right. So magic happens. Magic happens. So you went to the Netherlands. All right. And I don't know what part of the Netherlands you were living in, but the part that I know, the houses are this wide and they all have a hook on the outside and they eat their lunch like this. So you tell us.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. But it wasn't Amsterdam. I didn't live in Amsterdam. I lived about an hour and 20 minutes south. So in the south, in Eindhoven. So you might have, I don't know if you follow the football, but we lived right next door to PSV Stadium, pretty much. So I lived there for 14 years in the end. I was going to stay for a year or two. And then I did marry Edwin, and we did have our children in the Netherlands. So, but there, I met this woman who had spent some time in Australia, but she was this person who knew everybody. And so I made friends with her pretty much instantly upon arriving in Eindhoven. And then I suddenly became the native English speaker copywriter, because that's how I presented I just decided, this is my chance. I'm just going to be a copywriter. I'm going to be a writer and an editor. I learned to speak Dutch quite quickly, so I became a translator. But also, because I knew her, I knew everyone she knew. So I just sort of got this instant network, and it built over time. But it was really, it was great. It was such a fun time of my life because it was before children. I mean, there was this period before children. Of course, after children is fun too. But it was a great place to be in your, most of my 30s was, I was going to parties and covering museum, like gallery opening, exhibition openings and design exhibitions and all that sort of thing, and covering it in my cultural blog that I had been keeping, an English language blog. So it was just a really fun and dynamic time, full of meeting creative people, because Eindhoven is the design capital of the Netherlands, and is also a technology and innovation hub. So you've got these really creative people that come from everywhere. And it was a really great place for me.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. And I can actually attest to what you're saying. You see, when you show up in a place where literally nobody knows your name, you can be anyone.
Oh yeah.
And when that then happens, the onus is just on you to maintain and then build upon that character. And now that you're in this newfound place, you're no longer having stage anxiety. Nobody who knows you is around. You literally can embody anything that you want. You became the copywriter, the go-to person, and things of that nature. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was very freeing, actually, to not have any preconceptions or a legacy. I just turned up, I had a website, and I just told people what I did, and then they told other people, and then I didn't have to do any marketing. I never had no work, ever.
I
And it was a
shouldn't have.
rare time when I didn't have
I shouldn't have invited you to the show because I'm feeling exposed right now because having come and I just rocked up and I was like, yeah, this is it,
Well, no, this woman, my friend, she had a finger in every pie. Like if she'd know someone. Like if I said, "Oh, I kind of need a bit more work," she'd say, "Oh, wait a minute," and then she'd call someone, and I'd have an assignment. Like it was, I don't know, it was like a magical time. When I look back, it was really a magical time. And the network was, I mean, yeah, but over 14 years, you do build something, don't you? And you've been in Australia for 12 years, 13 years now. Yeah.
We're going
So,
on. Yes.
yeah.
So obviously, all this now culminates into this well-rounded person. Obviously, if people are going to be talking about classical music, you'll be there. Talking about writing, you'll be there, and all of that advertising world, which is what all these tech people would have wanted, and things of that nature. And as you said, you lived there for about 14 years, so that meant you're communicating, you're expressing with people, and things of that nature. Now, if you could maybe compare, right now we've got your experience in Australia and now your experience in Holland. Which would you say is your favorite people?
Oh, my favorite people. That is really tricky because I am married to a Dutchman and I was born in Australia. So, you know what? There's a lot of similarities in some ways between the Australians and the Dutch. And I would say there's an openness to them both. And interestingly, I live in New Zealand now and I love Kiwis, but they're a bit more reserved. They're a bit more reticent. So I actually what I like about the Dutch is that they're very open and they're very direct. And so there's no kind of, it's very difficult to, misunderstandings are cleared up very quickly, let's just say. So, there's nothing shrouded in having to protect someone's feelings or your own ego or anything. People just say what they think or tell you what they think. And it can be very abrasive at times, but actually it was quite refreshing. It felt authentic. That's what I really like about the Dutch. And I think the Australians are just really warm and open, but so are the Dutch. I don't know. No, I can't choose. That's mean.
Absolutely. Now, knowing where you've been and what it is that you're doing, did your younger self imagine that she'd end up maybe coaching through embodiment and writing books and everything that you're now doing? What is it that made this feel possible for you?
That's a great question. My younger self had no idea that those two things existed. So my younger self really thought I would be traveling the world and playing the piano. That's really what I thought. I thought I would be allowing people to have to go through the full range of emotions. That's something that I thought I would be able to do through whatever I did, and in that case, music. But having said that, I'm still doing that. I feel like I'm still able to do that, but it's a different mode, a different delivery. So it's not through playing an instrument, it's through really connecting with people as myself and with them as themselves, getting to the bottom of how they see themselves as an author or a writer, and not just how they understand themselves to be or notice about their own habits. It's how they really sense themselves from the inside out, and how that comes out, how it emerges from them in their beliefs, in their thoughts, in their feelings, in how they sense themselves, in how they hold themselves, in how they do things. And then if I make a real connection with an author and they they can see themselves as they really are, and they can see what their habits are, and then they can see and they know what they're doing, then they can get to a point where they can actually be honest about what it is that they're doing. Then they can move towards what they really want. They can move towards to do what they want. But you can only go towards something if you know where you're starting, really. And whatever, there's they say whatever got you here won't get you there. So if you've spent your whole life thinking you're thinking in a particular way and believing in a particular way and behaving in a particular way, you need to really you have to make a lot of small adjustments in order to get over there to that thinking and believing. But you also need to, I feel that you need to descend below this part. The thinking and the believing only gets us so far. We need to go lower. We need to go into the body and notice what we're sensing and get some more truth out of what's held in our bodies, in order for us to be able to make a real transformation. That's my view. And so when I'm coaching people, I don't just work with what they're saying or with what they're thinking or with what they're writing. I want to work with what is the process like for them. How are they being transformed as they go through this process? I feel like both the writer and the reader of the book, what we're looking for is a transformation. For the reader, when they have the book, they've got a problem, they've got a challenge that they're facing. The book is going to promise to solve that, so they read the book and they are transformed. That's what I want for the reader. But I also believe that the writer comes to me saying, I want to write a book, I don't know how. I mean, not only do they get to the other side and have figured out how they write a book, but also they've gone through a process where they feel that they have really lived that experience of being not a writer and having become a writer. So they have a transformation. And what they discover along the way, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to discover. They don't know what they're going to discover. I just go along with them.
Absolutely. You see, with what you're saying, so many of us, we are taught to just have a checkup from the neck up.
Yeah.
There's never any connection of body, mind, and soul, because this is deemed woo-woo. If somebody's going to be going into writing a book, how their elbow feels has got nothing to do with what they're going to write. How do you argue with that?
That's a really good one, because there's something to be said about the elbow. Now that you mention it, if you were to put your hand on your shoulder, Prosper, right, and then you hold, you just support your elbow with the other hand, and you just go up and down just a little bit with your elbow using your hand. Yep, you do that a little bit.
Right.
So tell me, are you breathing while you do this? Yeah, just make sure you're breathing. And do that a few times. You just do that slowly, and then you stop, and then you go across this way.
Right.
And then you go like this. You go up, down, left, right, up, a little bit down, left, right. Now, this might seem like, oh, what is this all about? But really, you're moving your elbow, but you're moving your shoulder blade, and you might be feeling it in your pelvis. You might be feeling it on the bottom of your feet. So if you release that, and then just feel, what does your right arm feel like or your right shoulder feel like compared to your left shoulder? What does your back feel like? And what you're demonstrated there is, what's your elbow got to do with anything? It's you move your elbow, you move your whole body, So you write something, you change something about how you see yourself. You have so if you change an action, or if you take on an action, you can change your self-image. If you change your self-image, you can change how you act. So there's everything is connected. So what I talk about with embodiment is this integration of the head to the body. And we feel like we take our bodies for granted. You know, it's a head taxi. You know, we just want it to keep us healthy as long as it can, as long as our minds are intact. Like for many people, that's the most important thing, particularly if you're a creative and particularly if you're a writer. But I think, and I'm not even about I'm not an exercise freak, or I'm not talking about health. I'm talking about really being honest about how you see your whole self and how you carry yourself in the world really will have an impact on how you write. It really will. Like, because if you neglect yourself, there are going to be parts of your writing that you neglect. If there are blind spots in your body, there are going to be blind spots in your writing. You know, so if you can have that ability to see, oh, you know, if I turn my head, I could just use my neck, but I could also use, you know, this part of me. I could use my hips. I could use my knees could change position. I could use more of me to look behind me, couldn't I? So you can use more of you to write your book. Why would you just use your mind? It's like a waste. You've got to use the people around you. You've got to use your surroundings, your environment, nature, everything.
Oh, wow. See, the only use for an elbow was a nice slam dunk when I was a kid. You know, hoping I'm not landing on the ground. But what was that we just did? What's this coming from?
Well, I mean, that's part of one of the methods that I use, which is called Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais method, and that's a way that people can, it's a somatic education. It's a way that you can learn more about yourself. You learn about how you move, but you also learn in this algorithm how you think, feel, sense, and do. And when you do anything, you're doing all of those four things, all of them. Just one feels more in the foreground than the others. So even while we were doing this, Prosper, I'm sure you were thinking something. You were thinking, what the
Oh,
what
no,
the
no,
hell?
I was with you the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as there wasn't going to be any sudden movements, because now my hand was really relaxed. But I felt something, a nice tingling in my arms, and just present. You know
Yeah.
how you have a finger, but only when you've had a paper cut, you actually remember you have a finger. I felt I had an elbow. I just spoke about the elbow, but I didn't quite realize that it was
Oh
supposed
yeah,
to
I've
be
got
a
one.
life
I've got
lesson.
two. But yeah, so while you were doing that, you were thinking something. You might have had emotions about, oh, my poor elbow, I've been neglecting my elbow. I don't know. You were feeling something. You were sensing something in your body. Like you probably were feeling something in that shoulder because it was going around. The shoulder blade was moving over the back of your rib cage, and you were doing something. But which, you know, maybe you were doing something a bit weird or unusual, but that was something, right? So whenever we do anything, like anything in life, we're doing all of those four things, but do we ever deconstruct our thinking, feeling, sensing, doing in any given moment? Not really. We're doers. We're a culture of got to do the dishes, I've got to cook dinner, I've got to pick up the kids, I've got, you know, do, and we don't.
You see, what you just spoke about there, when your body goes into fight or flight, half of the time the muscles in your legs actually start moving before your brain starts moving. So our body does a lot of the
Yeah,
thinking before we even try to
register.
do certain things. How is it that before you even you meet someone, the first thing your hand is already out there, and I'm like, wait a minute, we're not there yet. You know what I mean? It's already trying to reach out for a handshake. I think the body has a brain of its own, and our brain thinks it helps. But if you really look at it, the toe in your left foot right now is pumping blood and the nail is growing without your brain even being involved in it.
Absolutely. And it's the nervous system, really. The nervous system is designed to protect us, and you said something about like going into to shake hands straight away without sort of considering, without premeditating it, just going in for something. And so what I do with my embodiment work is we try to, and one of your guests said this in a recent podcast, I think it was Karen Jacobson, she talked about it's so noisy, like if you just quieten things down. So she does it through meditation. With awareness through movement, which is one of these modalities, you quieten everything down so that your nervous system can detect the smallest, most subtle things. So this sort of scenario of doing this, I mean, you're not going to do this while you're running, because you're not going to feel, or while you're climbing the stairs or something like that, because while the rest of you is moving, the nervous system is engaging in sending signals and receiving signals. So it's not going to get the full benefits of, what am I going to learn? What am I going to learn about myself in this subtle movement? No, that's not going to happen. You need to quieten everything down. Usually you're lying down on the floor. Usually you're doing very slow, very gentle movements. And that's when the thoughts arise. That's when the emotions arise. That's when you can really detect the difference in one shoulder blade or the other one, whatever it is, as you do an action. But the interesting thing is the learning happens afterwards. The learning will happen afterwards when, I don't know, maybe you're writing with your pen with that hand, and then you'll realise, oh, I'm breathing, this feels easy, I'm remembering something else different about the past, or I'm remembering that quote from the book, it's coming a lot easier, I'm not holding my breath, I don't feel anxious. I feel, there'll be a shift in your brain that you haven't registered, because the nervous system is really smart. It's there to protect you, and it's there to give you, it also gives you those feelings of flow and elation and joy as well. So it's not just there for fight or flight to protect you when things matter. It's also gives you that good adrenaline when you're on the stage and you're speaking and that sort of thing too.
Absolutely. You see, Jane, I'm always very careful to do any impromptu movements, especially when we're recording live, because the body keeps score.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that I would have done, and maybe I would have actually stayed in that locked position and then would have to figure out how to get that.
I would never have done that
to see, now we're gonna have to
the rest of the show. This is your new sign, not your other one, but this one.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what I like about that? It takes us out of our brain to actually go within, because some people don't understand what it means to actually go within, and it's usually within where all these answers are. And maybe you unlock something that was trapped in a muscle or things of that nature, and that release actually then opens you up to something that you never thought was in existence. Now, you've gone on and written a book, and it's now become a way of your life, right mind in the right body. Walk us through a little bit about this and what this actually means. And obviously for a lot of people that are, getting interested in your work, if they can also get a copy of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm working on a second edition of this book, actually. So I'm going to be re-releasing it in the new year. But essentially, it's about looking at what it means to be a writer, and this idea that we've just been talking about, that we have ideas about what it is to be a writer. We think that you have to have a certain type of mindset, and that there's a certain process, certain things that you have to do because somebody told you, or because you have this, you've read books about it, or you've seen other people who've written books tell you that it's like pulling teeth, or whatever it might be. And so if you go in it with this mindset, it can feel impossible. So I present this idea of, well, it's one thing to have a growth mindset, to grow your mindset, but we've forgotten this other part, which is the body set, if you like, or a body fullness, or a way of harnessing or understanding the body's wisdom. But if you put them together, then you have a way, and this is what the nervous system does anyway. It's the brain talking to it's the system making the brain talk to the body, and the body talking back to the brain. It's this kind of constant feedback loop. And I'm presenting a way across 4 sections in the book that covered this algorithm that I've been talking about, of the thinking, the feeling, the sensing, and the moving, through a series of explorations. So in the first edition of The Right Mind in the Right Body, it was really a book that you had to do. But I've noticed this is a trend across many books, that kind of how-to books, is that people will read these books and they don't do them. It's like, it's a thing, people like to read information because, like I said before, what got you here won't get you there. So, but people just, I'm reading a book, I'm going to read the book. Even if the words in the book say, go and do what I do these things, go and do these things and you'll have an experience. And most people go, yeah, I'll do that later. And they don't do it. So the second edition is really going to speak to that idea, and just be honest about this is going to be a book, and I'm not going to ask you to do anything. If it so happens that you decide to do some of these explorations, that's great. But really, at the end of the day, you and I know that you're only going, if you're going to be a writer, if you're going to write a book, then you'll write the book. If you're not, if you want to write a book, but you don't write a book, then that's what's going to happen. So I'm really curious to see, I'm going to do some further research on the explorations that I present in my first book for the new one. But at the end of the day, this is really the essence of my message, is just what we've been talking about. You can only get so far with just this, and you can only get so far with just this. When you have an awareness, and if you have a way of tapping into growing that awareness, so some actual tools, processes, explorations, not exercises, but because there's not a right or wrong. Like, you're not going to complete any of these. You're going to just have an experience, and every time you do the exploration in this book, the outcome will be different, because you're going to be different on any given day. Or you might not even do the exercise or the exploration, or you can do most of them in your imagination and they still work. So it's just, I'm really excited about releasing a second edition of this book, but it really contains how I see people being able to access the whole writer, rather than this idea of a struggling, difficult, unpleasant experience that they have to get over with. I don't want that for the people who work with me.
Absolutely. You see, we were speaking about kids earlier on, and there's a kid's song that says you put your whole self in, you put your whole self out, you do the roly-poly. That's what it's all about. Like, you literally put your whole self into all of this. But you'd understand, in today's age and today's world, you literally have to be a specific, not just a wandering generality. Sometimes we compartmentalize our lives. I'm a painter, I'm a writer, I'm a coach, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm supposed to be. And people like us do things like this in such a way that you forget that your whole body needs to be brought into this whole experience. Like, if you ask me, this is just two humans that are having a very beautiful conversation. Nobody's a coach, nobody's a podcast host, nobody's a podcast guest. But after we finish this, we're going to get back into our roles in life again. I find that it's wired inside of us. How do people detach from that? Because once you really embody everything, I'll just be sitting here and just be human.
Yeah. So are you saying that are you worried that if you're fully embodied that you wouldn't do anything? Is that what you're saying? That you wouldn't have the impetus
We're
to
taught
focus?
because if they say if you don't stand for anything, you fall for whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
Okay. No, I understand the question. Yeah. No, that's good. No. So my view is if you're integrated and fully embodied, then whatever it is, there's still you can have an intention or no intention. But the thing is, whatever needs to be done, if a book says to you, I need to be written, this sounds very woo-woo, but just say, oh, an idea appears in my mind, book must be written. Okay, well then you go and write the book, but there's no struggle. There's no resistance. There's nobody saying, I don't have time for this, and then your child comes in and asks for a peanut butter sandwich, and then you just say, okay, I'll go get the peanut butter sandwich, you give it to them, and you continue writing your book. And you're free to write your book until it's time to go to sleep and get a good night's rest. It's just, you can write a book and feel like it's pulling teeth, or you can write a book and it can feel like flow. Which one would you rather have? And I promise you, if you're fully embodied, it'll feel like flow. If you feel like, oh, I have to stand for this and I have to, then you start to divide yourself off from, I don't know, your partner or your child or your responsibilities or whatever. And then that's when struggle happens. So what I feel like, how do I explain it? It's like if you had someone who was learning how to swim, and what you want them to do is to be in the water and do everything that's required to swim and nothing else. Like not too much splashing, breathing out of the water, not in the water. You want them to, have a technique that's the most efficient and biomechanically sound so that they can swim well, but you don't want any of the other superfluous movement. And that's what I'm talking about with the book or anything. So a desire arises, something comes up that is wanted, and then the conditions, you just accept the conditions, and then you go through with it, and there's no fighting it. It's very different because if you are just sitting on the couch and not doing anything, and then a thought arises, a book needs to be written, and you ignore it, then you're not embodied anymore. You've left your body. You're not engaging in that whole integrated invitation to take part in life. So I don't think there's ever any danger. I don't think there's ever any danger that if you're fully embodied that you wouldn't participate in life or whatever it is, even write a book.
Absolutely. See, with me, I had a lot of attempts at a book, like heaps. I still haven't cleaned my office. There's piles and piles of paper just thrown out there, and writing and going, okay, this won't do, and then we go on to the next thing, start writing again. But when the time came for me to write the book on your media, everything just made sense.
Yep, it aligns, doesn't it?
The process in and of itself, I found the coach was there, the people were there, the team was there, everything just happened. And all I see around me now is just that message. And I think it was Einstein or somebody else smarter than we are who said, when an idea's time has arrived, nothing can stop it. And I feel like, it's what happens with a lot of people. Now, if somebody's having that urge and is wondering what the next logical step would be, how can they get a hold of you, Jane? I mean, I'm not sure what postcode is that, Australia, Holland, or New Zealand, or in the
It's New Zealand.
outback.
So you just go to, it's just janehardjono.com. So you can just go to my website, and on there, there's a great resource that helps you validate your book idea. So if you do have a book idea and you sort of wonder whether it's going to resonate with people, if it's any good, sometimes you have an idea and you can't articulate it. There's a really great resource on there for you to test that out for yourself before you even start writing, and it might even help you start writing your book. So that's something that you can download there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and but also on my website, there's an opportunity to get on a clarity call with me, because I love to talk to aspiring writers, and I love to hear what their ideas are, and just to have an open, honest conversation about where they see, who their ideas for, who their book's for, who they are, and whether there's any way that I can help them, even in that call, to get them a little bit closer to their dream of writing their nonfiction book.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually get started on their journey. Now, Jane, I know you and I could go on and talk
Absolutely.
about stuff and things and life and all of those things, but there could be something that I missed out on asking. Is there one last thing that you may just want to bring about? So many people are being given all this information and conflicting advice, and they just don't know where to start. And if somebody's really thinking, okay, I think it's time, what's like the very first thing that they need to do in order for them to start being embodied?
To start being embodied, there's really only three things you need to do. You need to cultivate a relationship with yourself that's kind. And once you get good at that, it's really easy for you to notice how you're when you're in a state that's able to be kind with yourself, how easy it is for you to interact with other people, and how much more compassionate it is for you to be with another person, as well as within the entire environment. So embodiment really is you in the middle, and then people around you, and then your culture, your country, your language, your family, your ancestors, your community, all of that. So they all influence how we are in any given moment. So we're doing it all the time. We're just not aware of it. We are walking embodiments of our histories, of our biologies, and of the stories that we tell ourselves, but we can change all of that. They're all stories. So embodiment really is this journey into seeing yourself as you really are, and it's going to be a different journey for every person, unique to you. So I really love coaching people through that, which kind of goes hand in hand with if you're writing a book, because often that's a journey of self-discovery when you're going through that process. And I find that people really love, really enjoy having that experience of where they start and where they end up after we work together.
Absolutely. That kind of clarity is what a lot of people would pay a lot of money for and things of that nature. So considering you've already started us off with an is there a leg also involved in working with you? Like
yeah, an arm and a leg. A good one. I love it.
Absolutely. Now, Jane, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on this. I mean, your life story, from you starting off wanting to make the world cry to now becoming this embodied book coach, and all the steps in between, that actually shaped you into someone who's now helping bringing others books and ideas to life. I kind of think like you're literally giving people back to themselves.
Yeah. That's really lovely. And you know what though? My mandate is to disappear. Like my job is to really step away and let that happen, allow that to happen for that person. I don't really feel like my job is to create conditions for that to happen, and that's it. I don't actually do anything, just except for create conditions for someone to come back home to themselves, which is really sacred, special work. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And talking about disappearing, I think it's time for you to
Yeah.
disappear now. And I really, really enjoyed having you on the call. And for those that are watching right now, please check out the links so that you can connect with Jane there. And I think if you found yourself nodding along with Jane, maybe you felt a mix of inspiration, relief, or just embodiment in and of itself, and you didn't know that that was what you were experiencing, I want you to drop a comment in the in the comment section below, and just let us know what it did for you. Okay. And if this is something that you also want to continuously check out, stories like this on the Online Prosperity Show, be sure to subscribe so that you do not miss out on any of this conversation, because in the next episode we are going to be talking about ways for you to be, do, and have a happier existence. So until next time, may your mind stay curious, your body stay present, and your words find their way. Bye for now.